1944. Europe is engulfed in World War II. German intelligence reports movement of a large American armored division near the Luxembourg border. 30,000 soldiers, hundreds of tanks, artillery, trucks. Radio communications are intense and frequent. German command urgently redeploys troops for defense. But when German reconnaissance planes fly over the positions the next day, they see something strange. The tanks aren't moving. They're too still. One pilot descends for a closer look. That's when he realizes it's a trap. The tanks are made of rubber. The trucks are inflatable. The artillery is plywood and canvas. The Germans had fallen for the boldest deception in the history of warfare. But who was behind it? Not elite commandos, not secret agents, but artists, designers, sound engineers from Hollywood, and fashion designers from Manhattan. This is the story of the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. The story of a unit that never fired a single shot, but saved tens of thousands of lives. A story that remained classified for 50 years. This is the story of the Ghost Army. January 1944. New York, Pratt Institute Art School. 22-year-old Bill Blass sits at his easel, sketching a female figure. He dreams of a career as a fashion designer on 7th Avenue. But the war changes everything. His draft notice arrives in February. Blass expects to be sent to the front, to infantry or artillery. Instead, he's called in for an unusual interview. An officer in civilian clothes asks unexpected questions. Can you draw quickly? Can you work as part of a team? Can you keep a secret? Blass doesn't understand what these questions are about. A week later, he receives new orders. His destination is classified. The nature of the work, not specified. He's instructed to report to Fort Meade Military Base in Maryland. There, he encounters an incredible sight. Sherman tanks stand on the parade ground. Dozens of them. But when a gust of wind catches one of them, the tank lifts and slides to the side. Blass can't believe his eyes. A soldier walks up to the tank and lifts it with one hand. The tank weighs 50 kilograms. It's made of rubber stretched over a lightweight frame. Standing next to Blass are other recruits. Artist Ellsworth Kelly from Boston. Designer Arthur Singer, who specializes in bird illustrations. Hollywood sound engineer Harold Dahl. Fashion designer George Vandersloos. Colonel Harry Reeder steps before the formation. His speech is short and direct. Gentlemen, you will deceive the enemy. You will create an army out of thin air. You will make the Germans see what isn't there. You will be artists of war, and you will save thousands of our soldiers' lives. Reeder explains the concept. The Allies are planning a landing in France. The Germans are expecting it, reinforcing their defenses. Every real operation must be accompanied by a fake one. The Germans must see American troops where there are none. They must hear tanks that don't exist. They must intercept radio communications from divisions that aren't there. For this, a unique unit is being created. 1,100 men. 4 specialized companies, inflatable tanks and vehicles, sound equipment, radio transmitters, visual deception. You cannot tell anyone about your work, Reeder says. Not family, not friends, not even other service members. What you will do will remain a secret, perhaps forever. The soldiers sign non-disclosure agreements. Their strange war has begun. Training lasts 3 months. Artists learn to inflate rubber tanks in 5 minutes. Sound engineers record real sounds from tank divisions at training grounds. Radio operators study German interception methods. Every soldier must know multiple specialties. Bill Blass learns not only how to set up inflatable tanks, but also how to wear the uniforms of different divisions. Sometimes he's a captain in the 2nd Armored, sometimes a major in the 5th Infantry. His job is to show up in towns, talk to locals, create the impression that these units are present. Ellsworth Kelly draws diagrams of fake equipment placement. He studies how real divisions arrange their camps. Every detail matters. Distance between tanks, angle of the gun barrels, tank track marks on the ground. In May 1944, the unit receives orders. Deployment to Europe. Landing in France 1 month after D-Day. The real operation begins. The unit arrives in a small French town at night. The locals are asleep. Soldiers work quickly in the darkness. They deploy inflatable Sherman tanks in a field next to the road. 30 tanks in 2 hours. Bill Blass recalls this moment years later. We worked in complete silence, just the hissing of air filling rubber. The tanks took shape in the moonlight. It was eerie and beautiful at the same time, like we were creating ghosts. Nearby, they deploy inflatable trucks, jeeps, and artillery pieces. Artist Arthur Singer draws division numbers on the vehicles with chalk. Every detail is copied from real units. In the morning, German scouts see a camp of an American division. Planes fly reconnaissance missions, take photographs. German command studies the images. Tanks in place, trucks, artillery. The camp looks authentic, but visual deception isn't enough. They need sound. At night, Phase 2 of the operation begins. Sound engineers set up speakers in the woods a mile from camp. Harold Dahl checks the equipment. 500-watt speakers. They can project sound up to 20 kilometers away. At midnight, Dahl plays the recording. The sound of tank engines fills the night. Clanking treads, roaring motors, shouted commands. The sounds of a real tank division on the move. German forward posts hear it. They report major American troop movements. German intelligence notes the activity. Command makes a decision. Need to keep forces in Brittany. The Americans are preparing something big. The third element of deception, radio. The Special Signals Company begins transmitting false traffic. Radio operators mimic division headquarters communications, use real codes and procedures. The Germans intercept the signals. Their analysts confirm. There are 2 American divisions in Brittany. The fourth element, personification. Ghost Army officers put on generals' and colonels' uniforms. They appear in local towns, chat with French people in cafes, visit town halls, ask about accommodations for their division. Junior Lieutenant George Martin, age 23, puts on a general's uniform, stars on his shoulders, fake medals on his chest. He walks into a cafe in the town center, orders expensive wine, loudly discusses offensive plans with his aide. Locals listen. Rumors spread. I was scared to death, Martin recalls. I'm 23. I've never even commanded a platoon, and here I am, a general. I was afraid someone would ask something military and I'd be exposed. But the French were impressed. They saw a general, and that was enough. The operation runs for 3 weeks. The Germans keep 2 divisions in Brittany, expecting an American offensive. An offensive that will never come. These German divisions can't interfere with Patton's real offensive to the east. When the Ghost Army packs up and leaves, the Germans finally realize the deception. But it's too late. Patton has already broken through the defenses elsewhere. First operation, success. Not a single Ghost Army soldier died. But they saved hundreds, possibly thousands of lives of real soldiers. But this is only the beginning. 19 more operations lie ahead. And the most dangerous one is yet to come. September 1944. A village in northern France. After the success in Brittany, the Ghost Army is moved closer to the front lines. Operations become more dangerous. The Germans are retreating, but resistance is bitter. The sounds of real war are constant. Artillery bombardment, machine gun fire. The unit sets up another fake camp in a French farmer's field. At night, soldiers inflate 20 Sherman tanks, set up trucks, artillery. By dawn, the camp is ready. In the morning, the farmer comes out of his house and sees an American armored company in his field. He's not thrilled. Tanks are standing where wheat should be growing. But war is war. He brings his cow to graze in a neighboring pasture. The cow grazes peacefully. Then she notices a strange object. Large, green, smells like rubber. The cow is curious. She approaches, sniffs the tank. Then, doing what cows do with unfamiliar objects, she butts it with her horn. A loud hiss. The tank begins to deflate. Slowly at first, then faster. The turret sags. The hull collapses. Within a minute, there's a pile of green rubber lying in the field. The cow panics and runs away. The farmer runs to the Americans. He's shouting in French, "Germans! Sniper, your tank has been hit." Soldiers run out of their tents. For a moment there's confusion. Then someone notices the cow with rubber on her horns. Laughter erupts. The farmer is mortified. His cow has destroyed an American tank. He expects punishment. Instead, soldiers give him cigarettes and chocolate. They patch the tank, re-inflate it in 20 minutes. But the incident highlights a problem. Fake equipment is fragile. Wind can move it. Animals can damage it. They have to be careful. In another operation, a strong wind picks up at night. A dozen inflatable tanks start rolling across the field like beach balls. Soldiers chase them in the darkness. The scene looks absurd. But if German reconnaissance had flown over at that moment, the operation would have failed. Soldiers learn to stake down the tanks with heavy cables. They learn to position them so they look natural but won't move. Meanwhile, operations continue. The Ghost Army moves from place to place, never staying long. Each operation lasts days or weeks. They simulate divisions, draw German attention, then disappear. Not every operation succeeds. Sometimes German reconnaissance is too thorough. Pilots fly too low. Photographs are too detailed. German analysts spot inconsistencies. In October 1944, an operation in Luxembourg fails. German intelligence notices that the division has no supply convoys, no field kitchens, no medical tents. The camp looks too clean, too organized. German command suspects deception but isn't certain. They probe the position with reconnaissance patrols. Ghost Army soldiers have to hold the illusion. They set up fake guard posts, patrol the perimeter. Some soldiers wear combat uniforms and stand visible guard duty. One night, a German patrol approaches close to the fake camp. Too close. Ghost Army soldiers can't engage. They're not a combat unit. They don't have heavy weapons. Lieutenant Fred Fox makes a decision. He orders soldiers to fire rifles into the air, throw smoke grenades, create the impression of a firefight without actually fighting. The Germans hear shots, see smoke, and retreat. They report encountering American defenses. The illusion holds, but it's a close call. Ghost Army is not designed for combat. They rely on distance and deception. When the enemy gets too close, everything falls apart. Still, most operations succeed. By November 1944, the Ghost Army has conducted 9 operations. Each time they've deceived the Germans. Each time they've helped real units advance with fewer casualties. But the biggest challenge is yet to come. March 1945. The Rhine River, Germany. The Rhine is the last major barrier before the heart of Germany. Allied forces are preparing to cross. German defenses are strong. Every bridge destroyed. Artillery positions on the eastern bank. Machine gun nests. Minefields. Crossing the Rhine will be one of the final major operations of the war. It could also be one of the bloodiest. German commanders know that losing the Rhine means losing Germany. They will defend every meter. Allied command develops a plan. The main crossing will be at Remagen in the south. But the Germans must believe the crossing will happen at Wesel in the north. The Ghost Army receives the mission. Create the impression that 2 full divisions are preparing to cross at Wesel. Make it look like engineers are building pontoon bridges. Make the Germans concentrate forces there while the real crossing happens 30 kilometers south. Operation Vipers. The Ghost Army arrives at Wesel in mid-March. The town is damaged by bombing. The Rhine is wide here, fast-flowing. German positions on the opposite bank are clearly visible. Setting up the deception is more difficult than ever. German observation is constant. Any mistake will be spotted immediately. Work begins at night. Inflatable tanks are positioned near the riverbank. Fake supply depots are erected. Stacks of rubber pontoons, made to look like bridge-building equipment, line the shore. Sound engineers set up speakers along the river. They play recordings of bridge construction, hammering, shouting, diesel engines, the sounds of an engineering battalion working through the night. Radio operators transmit false communications. Bridge Section 3 almost complete. First wave assembles at 0600. Artillery support confirmed for crossing point. German observation posts report intense American activity at Wesel. High Command studies the reports. Aerial reconnaissance confirms it. Americans are building a crossing at Wesel. German forces begin moving north. Artillery batteries reposition. Infantry divisions dig in along the eastern bank across from Wesel. exactly where the Allies want them. Meanwhile, 30 kilometers south, real American engineers are quietly working on actual pontoon bridges. Infantry divisions mass in concealed positions. Tank battalions prepare for the crossing. At Wesel, the Ghost Army maintains the illusion. Bill Blass and other soldiers wear engineering corps uniforms. They walk openly near the river, pointing at the water, consulting fake maps. German observers watch through binoculars. We knew they were watching us, Blass recalls. We could see their observation posts. We had to look natural, walk with purpose, never acknowledge that we knew we were being watched. It was like performing in a theater where the audience has guns. Sound engineer Harold Dahl plays recordings of increasing intensity. Construction sounds grow louder. More voices, more activity. The impression: bridge completion is imminent. The most dangerous part: visual consistency. Inflatable equipment must look real from across the river. Artists paint shadows on the rubber tanks to enhance depth. They add mud stains, scuff marks, fake wear and tear. Ellsworth Kelly designs the camp layout to match real engineering units. Every detail precise. The spacing of tents, the positioning of equipment, the paths soldiers walk. From the German side, it has to look authentic. On March 23rd, the real crossing begins at Remagen. Under cover of darkness, American forces begin crossing the Rhine. Pontoon bridges assembled rapidly. First wave crosses successfully. Minimal resistance. German resistance is weak. Most of their forces are concentrated at Wesel, where nothing is happening. At Wesel, the Ghost Army continues the performance. Construction sounds, simulated troop movements toward the shore. False radio communications become more urgent. Bridge almost complete! First wave preparing to cross. German artillery opens fire on American positions at Wesel. Shells fall on empty fields, on inflatable tanks, on speakers. Ghost Army soldiers lie in bunkers. The ground shakes from explosions. Shrapnel whistles overhead. It's the most intense shelling they've experienced. We thought we were done for, Harold Dahl remembers. Shells were falling constantly. One hit an inflatable tank 20 meters away. The tank exploded, burst into pieces of rubber. It would have been funny if it weren't so terrifying. But the soldiers continue their work. The speakers must keep playing. The deception must continue. Every hour of deception means hundreds of lives saved at the real crossing. On the morning of March 24th, the Germans realize they've been fooled. Americans are already on the eastern bank of the Rhine, 30 kilometers south. Pontoon bridges built. Troops crossing in a continuous stream. Operation Vipers, a triumphant success. According to command estimates, the deception saved between 10 and 30,000 American lives. The Rhine crossing, which could have been a massacre, proceeded with minimal losses. General Dwight Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of Allied Forces, personally visits Ghost Army positions after the operation. The soldiers line up. Eisenhower walks along the formation, stops, looks at the young men. Artists, designers, sound engineers. "Gentlemen," he says, "what you've done has saved thousands of our soldiers' lives. You will not be awarded medals. No one will ever know about your service. History will not record your names. But I know. Command knows. And that matters." Bill Blass remembers this moment as the most significant of his military service. Eisenhower told us we were heroes, secret heroes. We weren't seeking glory. But the commander's words meant everything. The Rhine operation was the Ghost Army's last major mission. There would be a few more small operations ahead, but the war is nearing its end. May 1945. The war in Europe is over. Germany has surrendered. Ghost Army soldiers celebrate along with everyone else. They survived. 1,100 men went through 20 major operations. Casualties were minimal, a few wounded, virtually no deaths. They saved tens of thousands of lives, deceived the German army 20 times, changed the course of battles. Their contribution to victory was enormous. but they have to celebrate quietly. They can't tell anyone what they did. The operations remain classified. The unit is disbanded. Soldiers are sent home. Before departure, each one signs new non-disclosure agreements. The prohibition is absolute. Can't tell anyone. Not family, not friends. Never. Coming home is both joyful and bitter. Jack Macy returns to New York. His parents greet him with pride. They throw a party. Neighbors congratulate him. They ask, "Where did you serve? What did you do?" Macy answers vaguely. "In France and Germany. I worked on camouflage. Technical work." People lose interest. Camouflage? So, rear service. Doesn't compare to those who fought on the front lines. One neighbor, an infantry veteran, says dismissively, "Oh, so you were one of those painting trucks in the rear. Well, somebody has to do it." Macy stays silent. He can't explain. Can't say that his work might have saved this neighbor's life, or the lives of his comrades. He has to endure the condescension. At veteran gatherings, Ghost Army members recognize each other. A special handshake, an understanding look. They don't discuss their service, not even with each other. The habit of secrecy is too strong. Bill Blass builds a career in fashion, becomes famous. Journalists ask about the war. He says he served in a special unit. Nothing more. Ellsworth Kelly becomes an artist. His works are exhibited in the world's finest galleries. Critics ask where his inspiration came from. He mentions the war, but no details. Years pass. Decades. The secret holds. Some veterans die without ever telling their families the truth. Their children think their fathers did something insignificant. Grandchildren don't know their grandfather was a hero. In the 1970s, some veterans begin quietly speaking about the Ghost Army. They write letters to Congress, ask for the information to be declassified. They're aging. They want the story told. The government refuses. Deception methods are still relevant. Secrecy must be maintained. Jack Macy, now in his 70s, says in an interview, "We saved thousands of lives. But nobody knows. My grandchildren think I was just a soldier in the rear. I want them to know the truth while I'm still alive." Finally, in 1996, the U.S. Congress declassifies Ghost Army operations. 51 years after the war, the information becomes public. Journalists begin interviews. Historians study archives. The world learns about the artists who deceived Hitler. Surviving veterans give interviews. They're in their 70s and 80s. Many cry as they tell their stories. 50 years of silence ends. "Finally, I can tell my grandchildren," Macy says. "Finally, they'll know what I did. I wasn't a rear echelon soldier. I saved lives. But many don't live to see this day. More than half of Ghost Army participants died without ever seeing recognition." 2013, Washington, D.C. The U.S. Congress awards the Congressional Gold Medal to Ghost Army participants, the nation's highest civilian honor. 68 years after the war. Several surviving veterans attend the ceremony. They're in their 90s, in wheelchairs, but their eyes are bright. The Speaker of the House says, "These men fought with brushes and pencils. They won with art and creativity. They proved that intelligence can be a weapon, and they saved tens of thousands of American lives." The veterans receive their medals, applause, tears, recognition at last. But many are gone. Bill Blass died in 2002. Ellsworth Kelly would die in 2015. Arthur Singer passed away in 1990. The list is long. Director Rick Beyer makes the documentary The Ghost Army. The story becomes known to the general public. Books are published. Exhibits are organized. Ghost Army methods are studied in military academies. Their tactics influence modern psychological warfare and disinformation operations. The story of the Ghost Army is a reminder. Wars are won not only by force. Creativity, intelligence, art are also weapons. Sometimes more effective than tanks and guns. 1,100 artists, designers, sound engineers. They didn't fire weapons, but they saved more lives than many combat units. They were ghosts, a secret, a shadow. Now they are legend.